All right, let's get started. Hi, everyone. If you don't know me, I am Erin Joy Swank. I am the Denver Regional Rep for the Stage Managers Association, Vice Regional Rep for the Stage Managers Association. We have a fair amount of gatherings online, but this time we are taking time to work with Rocky Mountain Artist Safety Alliance and Colorado Theater Guild, to talk about the new new to us, constantly living, breathing document, Colorado Standards for Theater. And do you want to give a brief intro of who you guys are? Tammy, start with you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I am Tammy Managini. I am part of the Rocky Mountain Artist Safety Alliance, or as somebody told me this week, RAMASA. And we have been working on this document for a little bit more than 2 years now. And we're going to share a little bit about that process and about the document today. And let's see, I'm also an associate professor at the Department of Theater and Dance at CU Boulder, and I am an equity actor and director locally.
Great. And Amanda Rose. You'll find that unmute button. I know you will. Here, I'll make it easier. Here we go.
Thanks. I covered it up with everybody's pictures and then I couldn't figure out how to move it. Hi, I'm Amanda Rose Villarreal, and I am currently working on my PhD at CU Boulder, but I work throughout the region as an intimacy choreographer, as a director, and as an immersive performer. So that's a little bit about me personally, and I've been working with Tammy along with the Athena Arts Project based in Denver over the past 2 years, crafting this document and really trying to collect best practices so that we can kind of infuse the whole community from the inside out with the knowledge to be better and do better.
And Laura, why don't you go ahead?
Hi, folks. I'm Laura Meyers. I'm a local freelance non-equity production.
Oh, she just muted. Let's unmute. We're trying to ask you to unmute. There you go.
Okay, there we go. And I am on the newly formed committee for the Colorado Theater Guild and also RAMASA, as we're saying now, to help get this wonderful document that we're about to go through on a very sort of stage managerial level out into the hands of our community so we can, as Amanda said, do better and be better and treat each other well and promote safety in all senses of the word.
And again, I'm Erin Joy Swank. I am an equity freelance stage manager. I do both theater as well as opera, a little bit of cirque. So I was at the Gaylord Rockies last Christmas. I've worked at TheaterWorks, but I do also work a lot of out of state. So you may not have seen me in town as much, except for hosting all of these gatherings whenever I can. Laura's going to help out with digitally moderating. So I'm going to do some of the technical stuff and she's going to be looking in the back end. Laura, would you add that link to the chat? If people haven't looked at the document yet, we would like you normally to go to the website that's listed to request it yourself. So when they have any updates, they can send it to you. But if you haven't had a chance to look at it yet, we're going to share my Google Drive link so that you can look at it for tonight. So the first thing I want to do is in the participants area, if you pull up at the bottom of your screen, you should be able to get to the participants list if you haven't already. And there is a green yes and a red check mark no. Could you let us know if you have happened to have read this document yet or not? A green yes and a red no, just so we have an idea of how many people have looked at it yet or not. We've got 7 have participated. I bet Tammy's read it, so we won't count her.
Oh, yes. I realized I was participating too. Yes.
All right, so we've got, counting the panelists, 5 and 4, so about half and half of who's read it and who's not. So if you, we're going to show screen shares of the document. Feel free to go to my Google Drive for now, so you can read it tonight if you want to. But we ask that you please request the document at the contact us link that's listed, so that you can get any updates. And I think, should we just go ahead and go straight to the document next? Oh, housekeeping kind of things. This is a meeting format rather than a webinar format, so there is no question and answer, but if you want to put any questions that you have in the chat, Laura's going to keep an eye on those. We have several things that we want to make sure we get covered before we get to true question and answers, but if there's any clarification kind of questions, Laura's going to bring those up for us. And if I don't think anybody's doing this via phone, but if you happen to be via phone, it's *9 if you want to raise your hand and be called upon. And later when we get into a question and answer kind of format, if you do want to raise your hand, there is that option in the same place where you found the yes and no. There's a blue raise your hand option. So let's go to see if I forgot anything from our talk. Laura, do you want to talk more about the subcommittee or not? You good?
Sure, I can say a little bit more.
Great.
Basically, just for background, I think a lot of you who are in the community probably know, this document has been, as the Ramasa gals will have said and will tell us, in process for a couple of years now. But recently, there was an incident at Equinox Theater with some staffing situations that caused sexual harassment claims. And so that was one of the things that really made this committee feel a call to action to come together to provide the community members a way to report things like this when they didn't feel like they could do that directly with the producers. Because sometimes, you know, the producer could be the problem, or you just feel like you can't talk to them about things going wrong in theaters. Anyway, any situation from sexual harassment to, you know, a big leak in the dressing room really needs to be things that people need to be made aware of. So this committee now exists with full support of the Colorado Theater Guild to help Ramasa get the word out about the document and to also serve as a liaison point for artists when they feel they need some help. And we will provide resources and things like that. So there'll be much more information in the coming days about how exactly we will function and so on. But this is kind of our starting point, was to get the document into the hands of those who are in the room where it happens all the time.
Nice. Very nice.
No, I haven't heard that phrase at all. No. And we are recording it, as you can tell when you logged in, as well as the note at the bottom. Should we end up with any sensitive information that needs to be discussed within this group, but we don't feel comfortable with the recording, I can absolutely edit it out after the fact, just so we know. It's also a safety version because some of our partner organizations have been Zoom bombed in the past. And so if anything criminal would have happened, then we've got a record of what happened. So do feel free, and then we can talk later about whether if you want a certain section edited out later. But otherwise, this is going to be available for the stage managers and others who weren't able to join us for the main part of the discussion. All right, Tammy, do you want to talk about who it's for? And I will switch over to the document to that page 4 as well you're talking.
Yeah. Thank you. And I just, can you all, if you're on the screen, like just wave, or if you're a stage manager or, you know, I just want to see, you know, show, yes, which I assume you all are, but I was told that some people might be in other areas. So we are going to really speak tonight to the stage managers and the stage management as it comes up in our document. And we've been asked, Amanda Rose and I, in a very short period of time, to introduce you to some of the components of the document that could be most helpful to you right now, and probably will evoke some conversation tonight, which is kind of our goal. So I want to thank again Laura, Aaron, all of you for inviting us to be here tonight. You know, I have been in theater for a long time. I've been greatly influenced and guided and protected by stage managers. So I'm kind of, tonight, this is awkward and a little nerve-wracking for me talking to a group of stage managers, because usually you're helping me. So it's just a great honor for us to be here. And we are really happy to share our work with you. In addition to myself and Amanda Rose, we are also part of a triumvirate that is joined by Angela Astle. I wanted to make sure you all, you know, heard her name and know who she is, the artistic director of Athena Project. She is the other part of the triumvirate of Rocky Mountain Artist Safety Alliance. And from the very beginning of our work together, more than 2 years ago, it was very clear to us that an awareness of each other and a creation of a set of standards or systems that would be put in place to create these safer spaces was something that was direly needed in our community. And so we started working on that together with a group of producers, directors, creatives at the table, having these monthly conversations about what was needed. And we came up with this document, the Colorado Theater Standards, that you all have access to, that hopefully you will all read and be able to use. It's a fluid document, so you can use parts of it as needed. It is a growing, breathing document. It is a document that we are adding to, and you as stage managers, we welcome your feedback, your comments, your thoughts. Last night with Laura and Aaron had all these great oh, why don't you do that? So, you know, we take those things into serious consideration because this is your document. The purpose of the document, as Aaron has put up here, the document seeks to not define artistry or prescribe how art is created, or value one of a kind of work over others, or stand as a legal document. That's important, and that comes up again and again in the document. This is not a contract. It doesn't stand in substitution for a contract or a legally binding document. It's a guide. It's a guide to create these safer spaces. And it seeks to create this awareness and these systems that respect the humans in the artistic process, to foster safer places, because, you know, as we all know, we can't say safe places, safer. We're going to make them safer, and we're going to keep making them safer and safer. And practice so artists may safely endeavor to do dangerous things. I'm going to be completely transparent. I'm using notes on paper because I'm a dinosaur, and I want to make sure that I get everything. It is the result of the input of this group, and then you can scroll down. I'm not going to read it all, gang, because there's a lot. We know that 30 pages in a document is a lot. We spent a lot of time sort of editing out the parts. Who knows, some of it might fall out as we work through this next year of trying it out. But the big thing is we are devoted to creating spaces free of harassment, nurturing environments, creating nurturing environments for artists, a common understanding of practices for theater environments, and peer support through mentorship. Aaron said at the beginning, you know, reach out to our website that was on that opening slide to request the document. We do that so that we know who's asking for the document, and we can provide you with additional support should you need that, and mentor you and create a community that is devoted to creating these safer spaces. The document is for anyone who can use it. Non-equity theaters, as probably a lot of you know, it came out of the Not in Our House movement, which actually predated Me Too in Los Angeles, in Chicago. And we were greatly mentored by that group, specifically Laura T. Fisher, who we reached out to at Not in Our House, who helped us create our own document. And she came in and worked with us for a weekend. And so the non-union theaters in Chicago, those storefront theaters, those were the theaters that were directly most influenced by the document in the beginning. That's why it was created in Chicago. So it's for those non-union theaters, union theaters. There are a lot of union theaters out there in Denver, as you all know, that may not have a human resource department, that may not be protected by EEOC laws. And although they have to have equity actors, you know, maybe one, maybe two, they're not always governed by a set of rules that are the same as ours. And I don't mean governed because it's not a government. So I correct myself. Large union theaters, theater schools, as well as parents of young theater makers. I do want to bring your attention, and I'm not going to read through to all these, but there is a disclaimer on page 5 of our document. Again, and we say this a lot because it was never our intention to create a document that was designed to, you know, for a lack of a better word here, you know, police people or say, you do this or else. It was never intended as that. It was intended as a set of principles that we agreed as a community were important to be in place in theater practice and performance, and that it reflected the continually evolving interest to establish standards in theater spaces, and particularly those theaters that weren't protected by these, you know, human resources or institutionalized mechanisms that are already in place for other theaters. It's not an agreement or a contract, as I said before. So there it is. Can you all see it okay? Are you all seeing this okay? And hopefully you can ask Laura or pull up the PDF, save it, and digest it a little bit, you know, more when you have more time, because I know it's a lot. We know it's a lot. So, and I am probably talking very quickly. And so please, you know.
If they're used to me, I talk very quickly too.
Good. I work with Post-it notes a lot, and I have pens and pencils.
Us too, you fit. Yeah. Oh, I don't know, pens. We do pencils unless they're erasable pens, but otherwise you're good.
Yeah, so maybe in my next life I'll be a stage man. I don't know. I mean, I so aspire to be so much more organized than I truly am. But so, you know, if you think of something as I'm talking, or or Amanda Rose is talking, and you have a question, just jot it down or stick your Post-it on there, and we'll get back to it, because it's all important. The other thing I really want to say is this is not a one-off. And we don't treat it like a one-off. We really, from the very beginning until, you know, and we're going to be together for a long time. We are in this movement for a long haul of like mentoring each other and building the bridges to make our community stronger and safer and more respectful of one another, building better spaces. So please follow up and ask questions. And then I was asked to speak about the CRP, which is on page 10 of the document, the conflict resolution path. Amanda Rose will cover the NED and the audition practices, and I was asked to just talk briefly about the conflict resolution path that is intended to dictate means or not intended to dictate means of addressing all personal friction. It's just a pathway. I kind of think of it, Laura, that was great, in the room where it happens. Everybody's talking about Hamilton right now, right? So pathway one, and this is like my kid right now. I have a 12-year-old boy who just got braces. So he is in the height of this like tweenagerness. He's having a thing with his friends. They can't figure it out with each other. They're not talking to each other. Come on, mom, help it. Nope, you got to figure it out, right? So level one is us trying to really encourage the people that are having the conflict to communicate with each other, to talk with each other, to resolve the conflict themselves. You know, how many times have I, not me, but, you know, gone to a stage manager, help, help, help. Okay, well, what about just talking to the other guy, okay, or the other person? Excuse me. So that's level one. Level two, you can't work it out by yourself. Right now, my kid's at an impasse with his friends. They don't blah, blah, blah. The thing went wrong. The iMovie thing they were working on went wrong. Okay, so level two, Laura, Hamilton, it's bring your second in. So Lawrence and Lee are having the duel, and Hamilton and Burr are the seconds. So we bring in the seconds in level two. So we have the NED, which Amanda Rose is going to talk about. We have maybe a stage manager there, you know, to help facilitate that conversation. And as unfortunate as it is in Hamilton, Hamilton and Burr can't help them very much, and, you know, Lee gets shot. But hopefully that doesn't happen. Okay, level two, hopefully it all works out. Then you get to level three.
And I'll just interrupt. So the yellow highlighting is my own for all the stage manager things. The ones you're looking at does not have all the stage manager stuff highlighted.
Okay, great. And these are the things we talked about last night. Is that right? Yes.
Yes. And then anytime the word SM or stage manager popped up. Yep.
That's great.
Yep.
That's great. Oh, yes. Okay, I'll go back. Okay. And then level three would be the next level where you have to bring somebody that is maybe an artistic director, maybe a producer, maybe a managing director to help you know, communicate what the conflict is and decide on what if there are consequences or what's going to happen next. This is a suggested pathway to better communication. It has worked really well at the University of Colorado Boulder in our Department of Theater and Dance in helping people learn how to communicate better, to be more transparent, and also set up the boundaries, right? You all know this, you do this, you know, and everything is fully documented. In our document on our website, we offer sample forms. You all are the experts in forms as far as I'm concerned. So I don't know if you want to look at more forms, but it has
We're
been—
stage managers. We always love to look at more forms.
Okay. So that form is there for you. Okay, so the last thing that Laura and Erin, as I was looking over my notes before talking with the group, I just want to bring up, because it's not on our agenda, but just for you all in the room, because you are who you are, we have included on page 13 the role of the stage manager regarding these standards, because we know that these standards are in addition to everything you already do. And that traditionally you are the primary communication for everybody involved in the project, between the participants and the producers. That the goal of this standard on page 13 is to respect those additional responsibilities that you all have, and that these standards complement that expertise and that authority as a leader and an advocate, and in some cases, you know, encouraging the others to be advocates for themselves rather than always laying it on the stage manager. So that's what we're trying to foster. All right, I'm going to turn it over to my amazing colleague, Amanda Rose.
All righty. Tammy mentioned that a lot of theaters don't have HR departments, and I just want to add to that in a yes and fashion that even when an HR department exists, a lot of times those procedures are unfamiliar to folks within the organization that aren't necessarily administrators, especially if those people are artists who are coming in for a one shot or for one project. And a lot of the time, even when people are familiar with HR policies, engaging with those policies can feel really daunting. So for that purpose, we introduced the NED. The goal for the NED is to guide people through these types of reporting processes with peer-to-peer interaction and also with anonymous reporting, so that concerns get reported and dealt with at their emergence rather than growing and festering and then popping up later as a surprise because it's festered for so long and now it's heightened and it's coming to the stage manager's awareness at a place of heightened intensity. The goal here is that the NED can help deal with these things when they emerge and before they become urgent or heightened. So looking at the document here, the goal of the NED is, like I said, to be confidential and at the peer level. So this can mean that the NED is one of the performers in the ensemble, one of the performers for the show. This way, if a performer or an artist or a designer feels uncomfortable talking to the stage manager because something is concerning them but just doesn't feel like it's important enough to bring to the stage manager, because we're all taught that we have to be easy to work with, and that means we're not going to complain about anything until it's important enough, whatever that means. And it usually means until it's gone on too long. This allows a way to talk about these issues, report these issues, have them addressed earlier. So the NED, the standard here is that the NED is familiar with the safety, the Colorado Theater Standards, familiar with the reporting pathway, and familiar with any other policies that are being used by the producing entity with whom you are working. Their job is to provide their contact information and availability to people so that they can be contacted, and to serve as a liaison between the cast, the crew, the stage manager, and the producer for any issues that are brought up. while trying to protect anonymity whenever possible or preferable based on whoever is reporting. If I'm reporting that my dressing room lights aren't working, that might not be anonymous because it's clearly my dressing room. So that doesn't mean that the NED has to go to the producing entity and say, someone's dressing room lights aren't working, figure it out. So it doesn't have to be anonymous all the time, but in cases where the person raising the concern wants it to be anonymous, trying to respect that as much as possible. We really talk about in this document that the NED should document concerns that are brought up and how they're dealt with. This is for everybody's safety, just so that we can say, yes, this was addressed this way, and the concern continued happening, so it did need to be brought on to the next step in the concern resolution path that Tammy was just talking about. So that way we know that concerns aren't jumping all over the place and popping out of nowhere. We know that they're following these steps and trying to be dealt with on a procedural level that makes sense to whatever that situation is. The NED should always be the person that works with the CRP if the stage manager is either unavailable or busy or not comfortable dealing with a specific situation, or if my concern is with my stage manager, then I should engage with the NED in that situation.
Or if it's the stage manager's concern.
Or if it's the stage manager's concern. Totally. Is that in that sentence? That should be in that sentence.
Well, that's how I took, or is the individual of concern, because it could be my concern.
Either
so
way.
It reads both ways, but to make sure that it can be read that way.
Yes, completely. So the NED's job here is to really work as a conduit through which concerns can be addressed anonymously at a peer level as much as possible prior to moving on with the CRP to step 2, level 2, level 3.
And a quick explanation. I've heard CRP, somebody asked, I've actually heard 2 different definitions. One is concern resolution path and one is conflict resolution path, but it's the same thing. It's the pathway to deal with things is what your CRP
It's the same thing. I've been dealing with this language for 2 years and we changed it, and I may be bouncing back and forth between the old language and the language that's currently in the document. I apologize.
But that's what it is. It's basically the pathway.
Mm-hmm. We recommend, sorry.
No, it's basically a pathway to better communication. I mean, this whole, real quickly, if I may, Amanda Rose.
Yeah, of course.
The energy of this came out of, years and years and years of a tradition of silence and to some extent secrets in the just be quiet, just so many actors and people just suck it up, just go on, suck it up. So what we were searching for and what Chicago did was it developed these pathways towards engaging more conversation, and that's what I think all of these things help facilitate better.
And transparency is really key with the NED too, because the NED is documenting what's being done. That way it's not so much allowing for situations in which I've reported something to someone and they said it's being dealt with and never going anywhere, and I'm lost and scared and wondering if it was actually dealt with. Meanwhile, I'm being quiet and that the behavior is continuing because I think it's being dealt with somewhere, but I don't know where.
And so what's an interesting difference between Equity does have a deputy on most shows. If it's a one-person show, it's a little weirder to have a deputy, but we do have the deputy, and it's an ongoing debate about whether the Equity deputy, who is nominated by the cast and stage managers, every Equity member votes, whether that person's should be public to the producer or not. It's an ongoing thing because it's not actually a rule, but some people feel they get blacklisted. I actually like that it's a transparent thing, because ultimately I feel that if the deputy isn't known, then the stage manager is the only one that gets blamed for following rules. So they're up to have a big debate soon. It's an ongoing debate, but a more public one in the deputy committee about to make it public which policy we're going for. But this is a similar but different part, and I actually like this part of the non-equity deputy, that it is somebody that is, this is just my job, just like a stage manager is just their job to look at the rules too. So just wanted to say, and yes, it is a person. At the bottom of the page you'll see there, just like in equity, so either the first rehearsal or shortly thereafter, like maybe by the end of the first week if they don't know each other, it's somebody chosen by the others to represent them.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't specify a way that the NED should be selected for a producing entity or for a show. That's up to you as the stage managers to help facilitate. I have seen one NED for a whole show. I've also seen shows where the dancing ensemble had their own NED and other parts of the cast had their own NED because they were never at the same rehearsal. So that if I never see the NED, they don't feel like a peer anymore. So you can adjust this based on the show and based on what works for you.
Yeah, we also have at CU, because oftentimes we do these, big cast, big production shows. We have had situations where we've had NEDs for the ensemble, and then we've had production NEDs. So we have somebody who is a conduct for the production team. So all the folks working backstage, and that has worked really well too. So again, the document is fluid and it exists in a way so that you can make it work for your theater or your situation. So do you want to touch on auditions real quick,
right.
Amanda Rose?
Yes. Sorry, I muted myself again and then I was like,
and done. Remind me what page that is.
Auditions are actually on page 16. So they're right next.
Got it.
So our big thing with auditions is that the big thing that we want to hit home on is disclosing everything, disclosing as much as possible. Disclose it as early as the audition notice. Disclose it in the website for the producing entity. Disclose it on the advertisement for CTG. Disclose it on the Facebook page. Anywhere where it says there's an audition for this show and show up at this time, it should also include disclosures. And that includes disclosures for what actors will be doing. In an era of COVID, I would suspect that this should include what you are doing to, as far as safety protocols go, and sanitation and mask wearing and closeness. But some of the things that we were really focusing on were representation. If as an actor I'm being cast as a character in a show that I don't have access to the script for, I need to know if I'm using racial slurs, if I'm presenting a stereotype for whatever purpose in the play, if I'm depicting a stated disability. Disclose those ahead of time. Because if an actor's offered a role and then they show up and, oh, I was cast as a person who has cerebral palsy, I might not feel comfortable performing that role. And now I'm in a weird situation of having been offered this job that I really, really need, but that means doing something that I don't feel comfortable with or prepared to do. This also includes any sexual content, any stage combat, anything that is a high-risk movement. So if I'm juggling knives, disclose that. Have your directors, talk to your directors, your stage managers, talk to your directors and figure out what their key points are that they're like, this must happen. This character must do this. Find out what those are and let people know in the audition notices if you have control over that, if you have impact over that during the auditions. During callbacks. Also, just at auditions, never use physical intimacy in an audition. First of all, that makes people uncomfortable and then they can't reveal to you their best performance because they're struggling with feeling comfortable as a human. But also, if you have already decided who your Juliet is, you don't want that person actually putting their face on the faces of 32 potential Romeos. Gross before COVID, dangerous during COVID. So don't do it. Insert a placeholder. If there's a kiss in a scene where that you're using for a callback, have them give each other a high five. tell them to perform the emotional content of the kiss through the action of a high five. You can see their interpretation of the scene, and you know who's going to follow direction. So those are some things about disclosures for auditions.
And one more little thing, if I can add in real quick, gals.
Absolutely.
Is that's part of what our committee is going to help with, is as this document has gone out into the community to really, along with the CTG and how they post auditions, encourage people to really be forthcoming about all of these things in their audition posts. And in this time of COVID, as we all know, there are some theaters already ramping up to start producing. Candlelight, I believe, is in production now, even. And I spoke with an actor who's working on a show there and asked him, what are the safety practices? And he said, I'm not allowed to talk about that. You have to call the producer. Wow. So it's things like that that I personally am going to be, myself and a couple other company members, sort of pecking on a little bit to make sure that these things are out there and actors are truly being, all staff are truly being taken care of.
Yeah.
So if you notice it or don't see it somewhere, let Ramasa or our committee or the CTG know, and we will follow up.
Yeah, we also, I think this is a good segue, Laura, thank you, to let all of you know who are on the call today. On August 15th and 16th, Ramasa and the Guild, the Colorado Theater Guild, and Family Theater and Athena, we're going to host 3 community conversations about what it means to feel safer in theater right now. And it's open to anyone. You'll have to register very much in the same vein that you had to register for this, but we'll continue having these conversations. I think it's important that we have these spaces, Laura, like you said, of where people can actually talk about and share what it means to me to be safe in the theater today, and hear from others too. So that will be coming because we know how important that is to people. Yeah. I think the only other thing, and then gosh, you two, we're doing pretty good. We're almost at our time, at our expected time, because I'm so aware that these are all stage managers. Okay, so here we go. The last thing we were asked to talk about, and it's obviously very important right now in this era of COVID, is on page 21, basic health and safety. And obviously you all are the ambassadors of good health and safety in the room. You have, and I think Erin highlighted it about the kit, about the first aid kit. You are not, and Erin can speak to this, responsible for purchasing everything in the kit, although I know you often do. And we go, hey, what kind of candies does the stage manager have today, right? That's not your job. Your job is to make sure that it's there, but the theater company has it. They have it there. So, this idea of what it means to be safe, this standard is there on page 21. With careful planning, we endeavor to create spaces and processes for auditions, rehearsals, and performances that are physically, emotionally, and psychologically as safe as possible. We intend to make health and safety a regular topic of conversation. And this is important, again, and I keep coming back to this, and Leah can tell you, she's on the call here somewhere, isn't it? Yes, she is. We talk a lot. We talk a lot about things because that's important, of okay, yeah, we're going to talk about health and safety, and we're going to make sure everybody feels safe and they feel like this is a healthy working environment. So that we are creating an environment where we talk about health and safety, and to maintain awareness and procedures that contribute to a safe environment at all times. Rehearsal, table work, meetings, dressing rooms. We seek to prevent, identify, and remedy situations that might be considered unsafe or unhealthy. So if it does come up, and again, it's not because it's silent or it's secret, I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to feel like I can talk about it. We're going to see what we can do to make it better, make it safe. Furthermore,
correct me if I'm wrong, but way back at the beginning that we didn't point out, we, in this case, would refer to the producers,
yes,
right?
Yes, that's right. That's right. Thank you, Erin. Thank you. And then lastly, furthermore, the little furthermore in that, where is it? I think you have to scroll down a little bit. We intend, there it is. We intend to respond to physical and emotional crisis with appropriate attention and resources when required. So we're not going to ignore it. We're going to respond to it, and we're going to act. We're going to do something about it. There are, where, do you have it highlighted there, Erin? The first aid kit was one, and then down at the bottom of the page, accident at the very bottom, if unsafe conditions are discovered, those last two bullet points at first rehearsal and first tech day with actors, or upon changes in the safety circumstances, a safety walk with the stage manager and present company should include. And you all, so these are the things that will be included in that first day, as well as, you know, the maintaining of the accident, incident, and first aid reports. That is required. We don't have that form. I'm sorry to say, you know, we're not in the business of making more forms. That form should be provided to us by the theater or by the producers. There are so many itinerant companies in Denver, in Colorado, they're going from space to space to space. That space has to have that in place, as you all know.
Yeah, and so I asked that if we could to add per the producer's standards or some wording like that. So it's not that the stage manager has, here's the report I got, because they're going to want ones with their insurance information and all that kind of stuff on it, likely. So.
And Amanda Rose, I made a note of that, of where that is. So, because Amanda Rose will keep me honest about this.
And then this checklist that's listed here at this final bullet point is basically these bulleted items. To turn that into a checklist is what that means.
That's right. That's right. And we'll say as stated above.
That can also be whatever the stage managers or producing entities checklist is in general. I know in immersive productions, a lot of the time there's a heck of a lot more. Or in environmental theater, it's just different. So it doesn't have to be those bullets, but it can include those bullets for sure.
Right, right. Yes. So yeah, go ahead.
I think this was the one, oh no, it was early up in the stage manager thing. It said basically before a stage manager is hired, they should know that this document exists too.
That's right. That's on that page of like what the role of the stage manager. So the stage manager, yeah, they should know that this document exists. And in addition to the other, that they are supported with this document. It's not intended to be more work for the stage manager, but it's intended to continue to support the stage manager. So those are the things that we were asked to focus on tonight. And, you know, if things percolated for you, you have questions, you know, put them in the chat. We'll come back to them. I know Erin and Laura have some, you know, lots of other things they want to cover. Please don't forget them. I know that Amanda Rose and I are going really fast. We've worked on this document for 2 years plus, so we can talk about it really fast. And we are, you know, so excited that the stage managers came to us and said, you know, Laura said, we want to help get the word out. So our energy, please do not misinterpret our energy for trying to speed through things. We want this to be a positive experience and something you can use. It is 8:43.
Nicely done, nicely done. So I was just going to go through and just we'll see how detailed we get or not, but anytime it mentioned the stage manager, I just kind of wanted to highlight if we hadn't already gotten to some of those. And sure, there's lots of stuff in here that we should read the whole thing. It's 34 pages. We're not going to go through all 34 pages at this moment, but there's the prospective stage manager should be informed that it's being used. And also the talking about it on the first day. Do you want to stop now? I have it for the end, but you want to mention about catamounts for the July?
Amanda Rose, it's July 20th, correct? Their first rehearsal?
I believe so. Yeah, I have not heard back from them in a while. Am I echoing? Sorry.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Well, just the thing is, we've been invited to go into the Catamounts first rehearsal to use, because they want to use this document. They're doing a show where they're outside, social distancing, people will be and they want us to come in on that first rehearsal and sort of guide them through how to use the document. So the plan is to record that session, and then you all can use it. You all can see an example of how a first rehearsal might be done using these standards.
And that's part of what our committee is going to help with too, with Ramasa and the Guild, is be additional feet on the ground to eventually be trained to help with first rehearsals. So you have a representative who really knows the document well that can be in the room with you if you want that. So.
Great.
There's a whole section in here about notes for the first day, but I'm not going to go through all those right now. Certainly it explains that the NED, the non-equity deputy, works with the stage manager. So I highlighted the word stage manager. That one we do. I'm actually, and then several of the next pages are things we've already covered. So I'm going to jump to page 18. And I didn't highlight it, but right here, photo call notification should be no less than 1 week prior to performance. In the equity worlds, now a photo call is usually a little more notice. Photos are often about 24 hours notice. So I just wanted to point out that this one is currently at 1 week for people, and notice of extensions happening. The next page, there's a whole section on understudies. And so I just wanted to make sure that stage managers knew to look out, that in here there are mentions about having backup recordings in case they need to go on if there's an actor's voice that is covered. They need to know about, all the nudity, whether they get put in rehearsal schedules, whether they get their own costumes, all of that kind of stuff. And so I just wanted people to know that there's this section that stage managers should especially look at for when they're scheduling and making sure that they're inviting the understudies to things. And access to the archival video is written in here for the understudies. So if it does happen like at opening night or somewhere time early on, so the understudies could get a chance to look at it. A whole thing about whether to require them at the theater at 30 minutes or being within 30 minutes, but it's mentioned here as a potential thing. Here's the off-book date, that kind of stuff. There's the archival video down here at the bottom. Now I'm jumping to 25. In this, there's a whole section about front of house and what people should do front of house and trying to, how much they interact with the audience. But I did want to point out that one of the things they are to do is to inform the stage manager of any audience conditions that may impact the performance. So I would take that as, oh, we have a wheelchair in this location, or we have a seeing eye dog, or somebody who is on the spectrum and vocalizing. So just know, those kind of things are things that the front of house is being told to tell the stage manager. I think we started to mention this, but there is a whole dressing. Whoop, that really scrolled through. Let me get back. I'm just going to go to the top of 27 and
great.
There we go. Come on. Oh, it's like you're already there, idiot. All right, we'll just scroll up some. Pardon me for making you sick. So there's a whole section on dressing rooms, just like in any equity contract. We don't need to spell them all out right now. One of the more interesting ones for me that I highlighted here is that anybody that's not an actor, unless, with the exception of the stage management and wardrobe staff, shouldn't be allowed in between 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after. So that's stipulated here. Lots of things about clothing racks and things like that are important, but not necessarily to go into right now. And then there's 2 bullet points here, the whole valuables situation. And I did ask, it does say the stage manager will coordinate these efforts. I've asked for some extra wording about using what the producer has provided or something along those. So it's not only our deal to try to figure out how to lock things up or be safe. My concern always is to not make the stage managers have to be responsible for things that could be, criminal litigation, that kind of stuff. Certainly will help, but to put it on the producer as well and not our own pocketbooks. And then there's a bullet point about gender identification. I laughed because it does say the actor desires should be communicated ahead of time with the director, the costumer, or the stage manager. And in my experience, if you tell only the director, it may or may not get to the others of us. So someone should know that the actor gender identification, if they should, the person should tell on their own. And if you as a stage manager know that the person has, a different than the normal, and I hate to use those words, gender, that you're addressing those kinds of things regarding the dressing rooms. Tell me if anything comes up that we need to stop about. Otherwise, I'll get through these and then we'll go to other things.
I think so far, so good.
All right, I'm going to go to 29. There is a whole section on nudity, violence, and movement. Actually, kind of several sections about all of this. So I want to make people know. Somewhere, where is my... Oh, this is a page. I have a whole bunch of bullet points that I wanted to point out. It says facilities including cold packs. I like ice too. We are specifically, there's a thing about good floors here, floors and surfaces that are clean, well-maintained, and appropriate for the activity. I want you to notice that they're not specifically saying sprung floors like might be in an equity contract, because we know that some of these smaller theaters just can't do it. But do know that is something to think about. How safe is it to dance on the floor and stuff, but they are not specifically going to say sprung floors, because that's out of the budget of a lot of people. Then I get to go to the next page.
Oh, okay.
Adequate time, space, and guidance should be allocated. All these things. Look how many yellows I've done. So for stage managers, these are things that are required in the rehearsal time. So, if it is a space that's being used by a lot of people and you are only given so much time to get in there and set up, you may also need to account some of the rehearsal time for warm-ups. So just be talking with the directors and that kind of stuff. Same with teaching it. Also time at the end for cool down, asking questions and voicing concerns. We might call it a wash up if you were dealing with an IATSE crew. So think about, because we all know the spaces, everybody ends up at some point dealing with, they scheduled you exactly the amount of time that the rehearsal was. Well, that doesn't work for us, and now it really doesn't work when we're supposed to be, allotting for these kinds of things. So just make sure everybody's talking. If there's a choreography captain, which by this it also means like fight choreography, fight captain kind of stuff too. But if anything, to make sure things don't change unintentionally, and they should talk with the stage manager and or the choreographer or designer about any issues that have come up. Shocking! Choreography should be recorded by all participants and stage management. But hey, it's in writing, so maybe we'll do it too. And on video when possible. And then if you do use video, then you have to figure out, what's the safe way to do it and how much does it get around, all that kind of stuff. And then this bullet point next basically was what I would call a fight call, but to make sure that they're distraction free, appropriately lit, which sometimes can be an issue because somebody's trying to run a channel check. No, we need it to actually be able to be properly lit. Or as Laura brought up when we were talking about this before, there are two minuscule little work lights that don't really cover anything. So perhaps you need to build in a fight call cue look. So you can rehearse that in some decent light or in the correct light for the scene as well.
If you have two lights that are meant to light a gymnasium hanging 50 feet above the stage, not helpful.
Yeah.
Can I just add to the language of fight call that there can and should in many instances also be an intimacy call, both for mental and physical safety of the performers and for just protection of everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good call.
And there's a whole next section on intimacy as well. Let's see, where do I have next? How far did I get? Oh, and then at the bottom, using sort of the actor's equity background, 10-minute break should be provided after every 8 minutes of physical work. I actually said, what if they're sitting down? So, because that's going to, if it's worded like this, it's going to come up. So table work, sure. I think you should still have a break after every 80 minutes kind of thing. So, yeah, so there's that. But it's nice to actually say, yeah, we should have breaks in whether it's union or not. Look more yellow. You should include the fight choreographer and or intimacy director in your reports. safe working temperatures, and then it's about, if there is it's not right here, but there is stuff about whether it's outdoors or not, how much you can deal with temperature and that kind of stuff. Several things about performance reports. Rehearsal reports and performance reports should include the intimacy director and the fight choreographer. Performers should be able to talk to you about any unsafe changes. That's kind of, should be a given, but now it's written down. Safe working temperature again. So we were in the rehearsal section, now the performance, that's why it's a bit repetitive right here, but just to make sure it's always the same. Stage manager should check in before and after performances with each actor involved in the choreography. I asked that we add that, actors can initiate this conversation too, because as some of us know, if we're in the booth at the back of the house and fighting the audience and trying to get to the actors and they don't have really any makeup or they're basically in street clothes, it should be on them to also make sure to find us if we can't find them after the show. And certainly if anything changes, then they should let us know if we weren't able to see it ourselves from our position. And I am on page 31. Okay, next page. Violence, which is different than that choreography section. So they all are a bit similar, but different. Stage manager should have a good line of sight during it. So that's a nice little thing to point out. And then high risk physical theater. This is, anything that might be scary, whether it's acrobatics, tumbling, using in or on motorized set pieces. And so it's important that the stage manager and whoever else is appropriate verify the equipment. Shouldn't have to be said, but it has to be said. Now we get to the intimacy and nudity section, which they're shortening to I and N as we get going, so you're aware what we're doing. And during rehearsals, prior to it, people should talk about it. What are we going to do? And you should start with closed rehearsals because of nudity and intimacy and all those important things. And then agreement by the stage manager, director, and actors involved as to when you start opening it up. And the stage manager should always be present, is listed in this document. And then document what is just like a fight choreography, document everything. The very final bullet point here that I've highlighted, nude actors should not be photographed or recorded on video at any time during rehearsal, tech, or performance. In my mind, that means the archival video should not happen either. So that, whether that's up for discussion or not, but that's how I read that. So just know that might be a sticking point with some people.
And just to clarify, if there's a way to do an archival performance, but we put a card up during a full nude scene, we can still have an archival recording. It's just kind of missing the video for that specific moment.
Yeah.
Another version of your placeholder that you mentioned earlier, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
The stage manager, and I asked that we say, and production staff, so it's not just them giving us some stuff that has, ouchy pointies all over it. So the stage manager should be vigilant. I asked that we change it to stage management, and production staff should be vigilant. So it's not just on us. And, I hate when you're like, really? Did you not think about anybody walking through here? Let alone if they're nude.
Because anybody can sand off a splinter.
Yeah. And the screws sticking out the back of the set, that's always my favorite. It's like, really? Okay, you didn't, okay. And then, I don't know if I highlighted it or not, but there was about, oh yeah, here it is. Actors should be allowed to have robes and other coverings available when they're not rehearsing. It's a very lovely thing to make sure you add. And then that they should, I don't know where it is, but somewhere in here, there's one about that they should let us know if they're sick. There it is. Bottom one.
That's pretty huge.
Should be, yeah. So those are the things that there's certainly lots of things that affect us, but these are the ones that in my mind really affected us. So we still have a half hour to talk about things. I have about 3 more things that I could bring up for sure, but I wondered if we wanted to stop and open it up, or if you guys wanted to add anything for the moment. The silence is deafening.
Just another thought real quick, going back to archival footage kind of. If archival footage can be taken and the nude scene can be performed in a robe, I just wanted to clarify that archival footage can still happen without having video of a person being naked without their consent for the rest of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, especially since some of these end up online for sharing purposes or other things. And as we all know, once it's out there, it's out there.
That's exactly why it's in the document.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a whole, you all probably know this, but now a lot of companies or a lot of folks are turning to theater intimacy education. And there's, theater intimacy education, TIE. Actually, one of the founders of that group has a book out now that spells it out for you if you're not in a position where you can afford a theater intimacy coach, or, there are certainly resources for you to get help in how to approach intimacy on stage in safer ways and making sure that people are comfortable by using these placeholders or using these practices where you're not putting people in vulnerable positions where they're not comfortable. And that is becoming more and more the normal of having a theater intimacy person either present or doing your research to make sure that you are practicing theater intimacy in a safe and a respectful way.
And I've actually attended locally. Humble Warrior Movement has had some intimacy coaching classes, and it is a little awkward because you end up being involved like the actors are, because normally people aren't touching us like that. But it is what's your safe space and all that kind of stuff. So I highly recommend it. Some people, whether it's through that group or some other group, to take some training yourself, so you know some of the right wording, and hopefully you're not the one having to do it as a stage manager, but at least you know the terminology and thought process and stuff.
Yeah, and that's part of what our committee is going to, again, help with. We'll have a guide of resources for things like this, and folks you can contact if you need someone to do these services for your show.
So what do you all think? What's resonating for you right now? What are questions you have or thoughts or things that have, you've gone, I call them ahas or duhas, where you go, duh, oh, okay, right, whatever. So if you have any of those, we'd love, to hear them, or again, you can put them in the chat and we'll respond to them. I appreciate the intimacy.
And also, if somebody wants to talk, we can open up the floor too.
Definitely. Can they unmute the?
If they can't, they can raise their hand and then we can unmute that. We can ask them to unmute then. So.
Yeah, and so one other.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say one other interesting point of this document too, just for everyone to know that's on the call. So please, spread the word. I've actually been reached out to recently by some folks that run burlesque troupes, folks that do drag shows that want to have things like this, a document for their groups as well. So, and this document, though it does have more of a theatrical language, Ramasa is there to serve artists of all types. So this document can be used by performance groups of any kind, really. So let friends know who do other kinds of art that this is something they can use too.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see what I just highlighted or not with the blue.
That's great.
But that was actually one of the things I was going to try to bring up is that line.
Yeah.
Adding on to what Laura was just saying, that was a goal of ours. We had several people who were working in the wordsmithing of this document who work predominantly in environmental or burlesque. I tend to perform most in immersive performance as well as being an intimacy choreographer. And I just wanted to bring note to something Benny brought up in the chat about high schools. I know I was a public high school teacher for 13 years and I taught theater in Dallas, Houston, throughout Colorado. And I know that those budgets are not usually present to bring in an intimacy choreographer. Theatrical intimacy education tends to do sliding scales for organizations. And I myself have led workshops for public school theater educators in several different districts in Colorado on behalf of theatrical intimacy education. So if that's something that you guys are working with and you are in that K-12 environment or TYA environment and there's not a budget for it, please reach out. We want people to know best practices so that our young actors are going into the industry with the ability to stand up for themselves and advocate for the safety of everyone throughout the process. So please reach out.
Yeah, I just really appreciate the, hi guys, I'm Benny for people who don't, hi. I really appreciate that because I so often have been tech director and bopping around, and then I say, I just hear in the background, okay, so we're gonna do the kissing scene now, so everybody, and like it's the full chorus is hanging out in the background, and these two high schoolers who that might be their first kiss they've ever had. So I really appreciate that, and I'm wondering if there's a way to get this or get a some sort of workshop working with this to EDTA and Colorado Thespians, because the best way to connect with high school theater educators is through Colorado Thespians and through EDTA on a national level.
Sorry, I thought you were done.
No, you're good, you're good. So
I'm
yes,
actually currently working with Bo Augustine to get a workshop. Cool. So that's in the works for Colorado Thespians. EDTA, I haven't reached out to personally, but I will make a note of that.
Yeah, that's the national. So like Colorado Thespians is the tiny Colorado one. I mean, we're not tiny. We're like third biggest or whatever. Last time I checked numbers, who cares? But EDTA is the national high school big bad, and they do teacher conferences and things like that. And I think it's definitely an area that there's a lot of lacking. Also, thank you for including silks and circus arts, because that's something I'm incredibly passionate about. And it's so hard to be like, no, this is safe. No, we do this safely. There are safe ways to do this. But no, you don't go buy a used silk for some random human being and then toss kids on it. Like, this is not what we do. It's not safe. So thank you for including the circus world as well. You guys are awesome. This is very cool. This is very, very cool. I'm excited to use this.
Yeah, part of this energy, Benny, came out of, we had a situation at CU where we had a guest director, very, big guest director. Everybody was dying to work with this person. And this person was like, I'm going to use a trapeze. And we were all like, well, yeah, great. Are you going to bring in somebody who I know how to do, and the students were all excited, and it was low flying, so nobody could get hurt, so part of what sort of inspired this to start were these little things like you're talking about, where it's like, something's not quite right here. We need some systems put in place so that anybody can't just do these things and assume that they're not safe, right? I also want to say about the intimacy thing, which is great now, is that there are so many resources out there for folks about theater intimacy now. There's a lot of documentation, a lot of research, tons of resources. Amanda Rose is an intimacy choreographer. I am a stage movement specialist, so I've been doing it, I've been practicing that for years as well. So we kind of have our finger on the pulse of like different ways of staging intimacy. It doesn't always have to be the old school, like, method way. There are other ways that we can stage and think about intimacy on stage to make people comfortable. So,
and I'll give a quick plug, the Stage Managers Association. I was not the host this time, but we have, if you are a Stage Managers Association member, we had a webinar that was about stage managers and the intimacy coach. And so it's available to members, and then we rotate on our public access page, so every so often it comes up as a free to watch video for the time being there too.
Yeah,
Tammy, somebody just brought up a question about using, specifically for you, about using the guidelines at CEU. I want to jump in first before I hand this over to you to say most of our undergraduate students at CEU are so familiar with this document now that I have been approached by professors in other departments, in the film department and in the opera department, because our students have gone and worked on productions in those other departments and advocated for them to use the document as well. And that was our goal in creating this document, was providing an outline of best practices that make performers feel safe and all artists feel safe, designers and everybody, so that when they go work with other organizations, they can be like, hey, just a second, what if we do this? And then hopefully improve the overall quality of our whole Rocky Mountain performing arts community that involves a lot of diversity. But Tammy, I know that you have worked really extensively with the undergrads consistently. Do you want to talk about how this translates to an academic theater setting and the power structures involved in that?
I think so. I think, would that be helpful, Tara? I'm looking right at you in the Jumbotron.
Yeah, so I'm not currently in college. I just graduated, but if I could pass this document along to the people who are still at CSU, like, this seems great.
Yes, I think the folks at CSU, who is the new guy? Noah, I know that
Noah Racy, yeah.
Yeah, I know that Noah has the document. I know that I shared it with Eric Prince. Now, it's up to them to use it. Now, as Amanda Rose says, you know, our students are really familiar with it because we all practice it now. We all use it in all of our productions. And also, like Amanda Rose says, and I'll say that a lot, that's like my favorite thing to say, as Amanda Rose says, is that one of the goals, right? I'm a dinosaur. I have tricky lighting here to make me look much younger than I really am, folks. And I grew up in the time where, like, you know, and it still exists to some extent today, but it's a lot better than it was, you know, slogging it around in Chicago and New York, where you were like, okay, don't say that this is hard, just do it, don't say anything, just do it, right? So what we're trying to do with the students, Tara and others, is like create this environment, empower them so that, like she just said, when they get in another situation, they go, hey, we use this thing, we have these standards, and this is how we work. Can we work like this? And so our students, not only at CU, but they're taking it out into building that community of saying, hey, this is how we agree to work together. This is safe, this is respectful, and this is how we're going to create really good art. And it empowers these young theater makers. And the document is for people to share. So absolutely share it. You know, you can say to Eric and Noah, you know, you came to this, hey, I heard this. I know Noah knows about the document. Noah is a big advocate for theater intimacy work. So I know that, you know, I know that he would be on board if he isn't already. But again, share the contact us link. Don't share the PDF so that they can get any updates. That's right. And that's for all of you just to know, we're trying to get people to come through Ramasa, to come through our website. I just love saying that so much. Can you all all say Ramasa? Like, just say it and like shake your body when you say it. It's just so fun. We're trying to get people to come through our website so that we can create this community. We can know who has the document and who's using it. And so that then we can ask questions like, okay, Tara, what worked great for you? Benny, what are you finding works great? Or, you know, Aaron, who's going to be like, okay, Tammy, these things have got to be changed. Right. So we want to know that it's not like Ethel Merman saying to, you know, Irving Berlin, it's frozen, right? It is very much living and breathing, and we want your input. Does that help? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and Tammy and Amanda, I thought I remembered, or as Amanda Rose says, I thought I remembered at one point that there might be some kind of template or feedback form that folks might get to let you know about changes. Is that something that exists yet? And where would they get that?
It's on the website, Amanda Rose.
Oh, perfect.
So what we're doing right now is when people are letting us know we're using this document for this show, we are setting up follow-ups for them to use. So there's not like a form that's just open for everybody, because we wanted to make sure that we were getting targeted feedback from people who are implementing the document, not from people who've read it and are like, well, here's what I think, right? Without being related to what we do at all.
And there's definitely a contact us form on the website, so you could use that as the form too.
Yes.
And I actually just had one of our subcommittee members text me a question because she was like, I know I'm not on, because she's on a different Zoom right now. but she said, will there be some kind of sort of agreement form that producers might submit to let people know that they are actively using the document, or is there a way to track which organizations are committing to using it,
So
other than just distributing?
Sorry, I thought you were done with your sentence.
Oh no, you're good.
So right now what we're doing is we are listing all the organizations that are like, we are going to use this document on our website. We don't currently have, because of COVID, everything kind of got interrupted. So we haven't like been like, are you really doing this? But we are following up with people when we know that they are doing productions again. And right now our partner organizations are listed on the home site of RockyMountainASA.org. And we are hoping to, in the future, and this is kind of vague and nebulous, what form this will be in, but we are hoping in the future to have like a positive affirmation web page either on ASA's site or on CTG's site or on Facebook, where we can say, hey, I can positively affirm that this organization is using these document and employing best practices. That page has not yet been fully developed because COVID derailed a whole lot.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, we don't, you know, we kind of have been put into just a whole different time frame, time sort of reality as everybody is and everything right now. We are in the process, for your purposes and your interest possibly, we are in the process of finding out from Chicago, from the Not in Our House group, any data that they have, you know, data that they have collected from those theater companies, mostly storefront theater companies that have used the document, to what success rate, you know, how the document affected the way that their operations improved. So we are in the process. Chicago has not posted that yet. They don't have that on their website. If you go to the Not in Our House website, they don't have that. That's something that's really important to us because we know it's important to our community. So we want to know, hey, Kirsten, you're using this document with your theater company. What's working and what could work better? We want to know that, and we want to be able to sort of collect that and continue to make the practices better and safer. And because safer is going to always be something that changes with the times. Obviously now, safer is very different than it was, 4 months ago. So I say safer, we say in the document safe. Oftentimes within the past 4 months, I've been saying safer because for me, it's like, we don't really know what exactly safe is, but we do know how to make things safer. And that's what we're going to keep working towards. Something just happened to my screen.
Oh yeah, it's because Erin stopped sharing hers.
Oh,
so
okay.
I decided so we could see each other.
I was like, okay, what happened?
Yeah, and
I was
something else.
I was gonna let you know, but I didn't.
So was there something I said? What happened?
I think another hope eventually too is that we, in the interest of transparency, which we all know is a very important aspect of safety in every way, is that the theaters who are actively using this document, that will be indicated when they post audition notices and things like that, so the actors know which theaters, outside of going to the Ramasa website, but which theaters are actively using this document, so that they have that added layer of comfort and assurance going into audition processes.
Yes, and Laura, the hope is that if a theater isn't using it, that the people in the room say, hey, have you heard of the Colorado theater standards? I mean, that is the hope, that people are empowered, especially our young people in theater, our younger theater makers out there, that they go, hey, you're not using these? Have you heard of these? Hopefully that is the hope. That's the goal too. Yes, and.
If they haven't been hit over the head with it 10 times by then,
that's right.
Yes, the people in the room should bring it up.
That's right.
I do
So
have one thing that it's not in the document itself, but I wanted to point out to stage managers that yes, we are to be reporting and documenting things, but of course if it's a sensitive nature or things like that, sexual harassment and those kind of things don't necessarily go in the rehearsal report because it may not go, the third TD down the road doesn't necessarily need to know what's going on. Yes, actually, in a lot of ways, people should know what's going on, but at least the beginnings of the conversation. Don't just put everything in the report. I even, at a recent theater that's a pretty darn well-known theater, I just put so-and-so is sick, and because of what they consider of HIPAA laws, all of a sudden that was not to be put in my report, and they felt very, that my light board op was sick. I got actually back onto it for having put it in there. That's not something that our company does. So, which, yeah, I see somebody cocking their head too. So, just different things, but do respect, privacy to the extent that privacy needs to be taken. So when we document things, when we report things, that doesn't mean it goes straight into the rehearsal report.
right, right. Good point.
What else?
Anything else, you guys? I hope you all get a chance to read it. Yeah, Benny, did you wave your finger? Did you have a, no.
Nothing else.
I'm watching. If you have a chance to read through it and mark it up and send Amanda Rose or myself or Angela, your questions, you can email us through our website. You can also find me on the CU website. Amanda Rose, Amanda Rose really sort of fields the things on the website. So, but we respond very quickly to that. And we really take seriously when people are responding to things in the document of imagining how they might use them. When people get excited about it, seeing you on the Jumbotron when you're like, yes, or, and we can't hear you, but we can see you responding, that just like, it just warms our heart. It makes us so excited because we've been working on this. And I think our goal is really, we always say, it's about community and it's about connection. We've got to be better at communicating with each other and creating these safe spaces. So, hopefully this document will help people understand how important that is. And if you can come on the 15th and 16th of August, Erin, it'd be great if you guys, let them know and come join us and help us.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Because we might be helping host it too.
Yes.
Yeah, even things like, bringing up little nitpick. They know I was a nitpicker last night. Tammy knows. Amanda Rose hasn't gotten quite all of them yet, but Tammy was like, wow, you're thorough. It's like, Laura's like, I'm not surprised.
Love it.
But even things like, when we were in the fight choreography part, it said it includes a slap, it includes something else. And I said, can we add choking? Because you've been in those rehearsals like, oh, it's a simple choke. And you're like, it's not a simple thing, And do you, I can go back and forth. Do you add falls and pratfalls? Do you add that to the list or not? Because those are the things that the stage manager sits here going, somebody should watch this. And any of those kind of things. And then I'm a big advocate of don't put all the blame on the stage manager. So how much of the things like, can we put that the first aid kits is their monetary responsibility, but we can help check it off and make sure it's all set, and tell them what we need. But those little kind of things, and they're very receptive, at least on paper. No, I'm kidding. To listening to what, what might make for our world better, especially because I think, especially in the non-equity world, even more of it's going to fall to the stage manager. Yeah, I'm very excited about this document. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
I think one of the theatrical intimacy education, the organization that Amanda Rose works with, and I've taken several of their workshops, and we brought them in to work with our community at CU, and Leah and CTG helped us bring some folks in. And one of their core values, one of their sayings that they use that I love, and I've sort of committed to just say it, is, passion fades, choreography is forever. So whatever that piece is that we choreograph and we know how that goes every time, that's safe, that's respectful. We're going to stick to that choreography. I think that's important.
And because you have a document now specifically backing you up, if your directors are like, no, it's just a simple choke, you can say, yeah, but is that skin level touch for 4 counts? Because I need to maintain the choreography that you've come up with, oh, fancy director who wants everyone to respect your creation.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Well, thank you all for joining all of us on this. And if you think of anything else, you know, Stage Managers Association page where you saw the event, you can always find Erin there and she can pass things on to us. I'm on Facebook. And then, yeah, the RMSA, the Ramasa website, which is just RockyMountainASA.org. I memorized it because I could just type it over and over.
Yeah.
But, and they have a Facebook page as well. So if you go on and like on the Facebook page, then any updates that come out, especially about the events on the 15th and 16th, which will be on the Theater Guild website as well, you can find out about those things there.
Yeah, and this was publicized a couple different ways. So I maintain a local stage manager's email list. So if you're not on that, let me know, find me, and get on that, whether it's job postings, if those ever come around. But certainly right now I'm trying to put out notifications of our gatherings and stuff like that. We'll look forward to that possible Catamounts recording, being able to watch that for the samples of the first day. And then plug for the Stage Managers Association. We have stuff going on all the time. Check out our website, check out our Facebook group. But next week, we haven't even announced it yet because I'm a little late on doing it. I don't know if you've noticed, next Saturday is actually a week from Saturday, is July 25th, Christmas in July. So we are putting together a whole week of things stage managers usually do during the holidays, December. A lot of it is Christmas, but we're trying to open up to other things that happen during the December month. So every night from Monday through Saturday, there's a different, some of them are during the day because we're actually working with some British, talking about pantomimes, pantos that we don't know very much about, though there are American pantos. So there's going to be something every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, from the 20th through the 25th. So look for all of those. We're about to announce all of those. So yeah, so it's fun.
Great.
Thank you all for joining us, and we'll work on getting this recording out for people and letting you know about the 15th and 16th now that I have the dates right.
That's great. That's great. Saturday and Sunday. Yeah, that's great. Thank you again, you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Work you do. Yeah,
Cool.
thank you.
Alrighty.
Bye.